Have you ever noticed how some people seem to carry peace with them, while others carry conflict, even when they try not to? Some seem to walk through life untouched by emotional chaos, while others, no matter where they go, seem to attract manipulation, drama, and psychological pain. Maybe you felt this too, as if something about you pulls difficult people toward your life, as if there's an invisible mark only they can see. You didn't invite them, you didn't ask for this, but still, they find you. The ones who lie, the ones who twist your words, the ones who seem gentle at first, but slowly begin to drain you until you forget who you were before they arrived. And when it's over, if it ever ends, you're left questioning yourself more than them. You begin to wonder, why do I keep attracting people who hurt me? Why does it keep happening to me even when I try to do everything right? But what if the question isn't about what you're doing, but about what you haven't yet seen in yourself? What if there's a psychological mirror inside you, quietly reflecting what remains unconscious, and toxic people are only reacting to what you unknowingly show them? Not because you deserve the pain, not because you are broken, but when the parts of you that remain unacknowledged create openings for others to step into. Pain that isn't healed speaks. It doesn't speak in words. It speaks in emotional posture, in energetic signals. It whispers through the way you apologize too much, the way you fear silence, the way you give and give, hoping someone will finally give back. And those who feed on the vulnerability of others know how to hear that whisper. They don't need to know your story. They just need to feel your fracture, your hesitation, your self-doubt, your fear of being too much or not enough. They know exactly where to step, because your unhealed parts lay out the path for them. You might think that the answer is to become tougher, to set boundaries, to be louder, stronger, harder. But real protection doesn't come from building a wall. It comes from becoming whole. Because when you're whole, you're no longer fragmented enough for someone else to climb inside you. You stop emitting signals that say, please love me, please choose me, please tell me I'm enough. And instead, you begin to exist in a kind of quiet self-possession, one that no longer needs to be seen, to be real. This isn't about shame. It's not your fault that pain found you. It's not your fault that someone else took more than you gave. But healing asks something more difficult than placing blame. It asks you to look in the mirror, not to judge what you see, but to finally meet the parts of yourself you've avoided. The parts that were never allowed. The parts that still believe you're only lovable when you're useful. This is what toxic people see without even knowing they see it. They are drawn not to your strength, but to your unconscious permission. The permission you don't know you're giving. To be used, to be manipulated, to be drained. Not because you want it, but because part of you was conditioned to believe that this is what connection looks like. It started long ago, before you had words for it. Before you could defend yourself, you learned to accommodate others. You learned to soften your voice, to absorb blame, to make peace even when it cost you pieces of yourself. And now the body remembers. The psyche remembers. It recreates what is familiar, even when it hurts. So you meet the same energy in different faces, again and again, until you decide not to fight the people who hurt you, but to face the patterns that allow them to enter. This is where real freedom begins, not in defense, but in deep recognition. When you see what lives beneath the surface of your own behavior, you stop needing to decode the behavior of others. You begin to understand why the same type of person keeps showing up in your life, not because the world is against you, but because your inner world has not yet been fully claimed by you. The people who hurt you most often carry a hidden message, a mirror, not of who you are, but of what you haven't healed. They expose the cracks in your foundation. They trigger your deepest fears. They play out the roles your childhood once wrote, and when you're unaware, you repeat the play. You become the one who gives too much, who waits too long, who bends until they break. But when you become aware, the script begins to change. You stop reacting to the provocations. You stop needing to prove your goodness. You stop waiting for validation from those who don't know how to offer it. And in that stillness, something profound happens. The people who once saw you as prey lose interest. They cannot survive without reaction, without chaos, without emotional instability. And you, once you are no longer split against yourself, become too grounded for their games. There is no weakness to exploit, no crack to enter, no shame to manipulate. You do not become cold, you become whole. And in that wholeness, you are no longer afraid of being alone, because you finally come home to yourself. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll go deeper. We'll explore how the shadow you deny becomes the magnet you carry, and how awareness can begin to dismantle the entire pattern. But before you move on, I want to ask you something important. What part of this spoke to you? What insight rose up in you as you listened? Take a moment to feel it, to hold it, and if you feel safe, share it in the comments. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read. And more than anything, try not to leave this video behind like another passing thought. Let it live in you. Let it guide how you move through the world this week. Keep watching the next video when you're ready, and begin the slow, powerful process of no longer being the mirror for what you no longer wish to reflect. There's a strange irony in the way life unfolds. You spend years running from pain, only to end up repeating it. You walk away from people who once hurt you, only to meet them again, in different faces, with different names, yet carrying the same emotional blueprint. Why? Because you're not just attracting them, you're unconsciously inviting them. Not because you want to suffer, but because some part of you is still trying to understand, still trying to resolve, still hoping that maybe, this time, it will end differently. This is not weakness. This is the psyche trying to heal through repetition. But here's the trap. You don't heal by repeating. You heal by becoming conscious. And until you do, life will bring you the same lesson in louder and louder voices. At first, it whispers, then it cries, then it breaks. And often, so do you. This is why some people keep attracting the same emotional pattern. It's not random. It's not bad luck. It's psychological gravity. Whatever remains unconscious in you rules you. Whatever you've disowned returns to your life through others. Whatever you haven't integrated will find you in the dark reflection of someone else. You say you want peace, but are still addicted to emotional chaos. You say you want love, but can't receive it unless it feels like struggle. You say you want respect, but allow people to cross your boundaries. And in that tension between what you say and what you carry lies the invitation for toxic energy, because toxicity doesn't just seek you out. It recognizes you. It mirrors what you haven't seen in yourself. It reflects the pain you've normalized, the self-neglect you've learned to call strength, the abandonment you've mistaken for independence. And so you stay in relationships that drain you, friendships that hollow you out, environments that silence your soul, not because you don't know better, but because you haven't yet become different. And to become different, You must face yourself, not with judgment, but with ruthless honesty. Ask yourself, what patterns keep repeating in my life? What kind of people do I keep inviting? Not the image they show, but the energy they carry, the way they make me feel in my own body, the way my nervous system reacts in their presence. That's the real language, not words, but felt energy. There's a reason your body tightens around some people, why you feel small, confused, unsure. It's not paranoia, it's memory. Your body remembers emotional environments, and it will signal danger long before your mind catches up. But we've been trained to ignore that, to override our intuition, to be nice, tolerant, mature, even as something deep inside us screams this isn't safe. And the longer we ignore that voice, the more we abandon ourselves, just to preserve relationships that are slowly erasing us. This is not just about other people, it's about the parts of ourselves we have yet to protect. Because here's the truth, you will stop attracting toxic people the moment you stop being emotionally available to them, not just externally, but internally. When you stop confusing intensity with love, when you stop seeking validation in chaos, when you stop betraying your own boundaries just to avoid being alone. This is the work, not glamorous, not loud, but necessary. It's the quiet refusal to entertain what no longer resonates. The silent shift from "I'll fix you" to "I'll protect me." It's not easy, because some of your deepest wounds come dressed as love, and healing them will feel like loss, not just of the toxic person, but of the identity you built around enduring them. You'll mourn who you were, even as you rise into someone new, but slowly, you'll feel the difference. You'll notice you're no longer drawn to people who drain you. You'll feel repelled by those who once intrigued you. You'll recognize the red flags faster, not because you're afraid, but because you're clear. You'll choose peace over intensity, presence over performance, and solitude over emotional warfare. This is what it means to become different, not just in thought, but in energy. And once your energy changes, so will the people you allow into it, not because they changed, but because you did. Because when you finally protect your peace, you'll stop confusing pain for connection. You'll stop making room for people who only take. You'll stop shrinking to fit into places that were never meant for your soul. You'll become a mirror of wholeness, and only those who recognize themselves in that reflection will dare to come close. So when you ask, why do I keep attracting toxic people? Also ask, what in me is still familiar with them? And gently, without shame, begin the slow journey back to yourself. Because the most powerful boundary is not what you say to others, it's what you no longer have to say once your energy becomes untouchable. Take a moment, breathe, let these words settle, not in your mind, but in your body, because healing doesn't begin in thought, it begins in presence. If this part of the journey stirred something in you, keep walking with us in the next part. Let this not just be a video, but a mirror, a practice, a daily re-choosing of yourself. Now ask yourself, what insight did you receive? What part of your pattern finally made sense? Take a moment to write it in the comments below, because when you reflect, you integrate. And if you're ready, watch the next part. The journey is not over, but you are not alone in it. Some of the people you met were never meant to stay. They were meant to reveal, to awaken the places in you that were still asleep, to pull back the curtain on the unconscious wounds you forgot you had. They came not to heal you, but to expose what still needed healing. And often, it's not love that does that. It's pain. It's betrayal. It's the moment you realize You've abandoned yourself for too long. But instead of anger, try gratitude, because these encounters, as painful as they were not random. They were initiations into a deeper awareness, into an inner reckoning, into a kind of honesty you didn't know you were capable of. Think about it. Would you have ever gone this deep without being broken open? Would you have looked this closely without the discomfort? Would you have questioned your patterns, your beliefs, your attachments, if life hadn't shaken you awake? This is the paradox of healing. You grow through what hurts you. You awaken through what disturbs your peace. You transform through what nearly destroys you. Because pain is not the enemy. Unconsciousness is. It's not the heartbreak that wounds you the most. It's repeating it while calling it fate. It's not the betrayal that scars you. It's refusing to see why you ignored the red flags. It's not being used that depletes you. It's believing that being needed is the same as being loved. So many of us are trapped, not in toxic relationships, but in toxic self-permissions. I can handle it. I'm strong enough. They didn't mean it. This is just how love feels. No, love doesn't confuse. Love doesn't diminish. Love doesn't manipulate you into shrinking so someone else can feel bigger. But sometimes we don't know what love really feels like, because we never learned how to receive it. We learned how to survive. We learned how to tolerate. We learned how to suppress our truth, to keep the peace. And so we become adults who confuse tension for chemistry, distance for mystery, control for safety, and worst of all, we internalize other people's dysfunction as proof that we're not enough. This is how the cycle continues, not because we want it to, but because we haven't made ourselves incompatible with it. You become incompatible with toxic people not by fighting them, but by becoming so honest with yourself that their tactics no longer work. They can gaslight you, but you know your truth. They can withhold, but you no longer crave scraps. They can provoke, but your nervous system doesn't take the bait. You don't rise to the chaos. You return to your stillness. This is the power of self-awareness. It doesn't just protect you from others. It protects you from the parts of you that once accepted what you didn't deserve. Because the most dangerous person in your life was never them. It was the version of you that stayed silent, that overextended, that kept proving your worth to people who couldn't see it. That person was born out of survival, but you're not surviving anymore. Now you're learning how to live, how to protect your energy, how to recognize emotional manipulation without needing to justify it. You're learning how to walk away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Because you no longer see healing as fixing yourself for others. You see it as remembering who you were before the world told you to be small. So pause and ask yourself again, what version of me keeps letting them in? Who do I become when I feel unworthy? And what would it look like to no longer chase people who confuse me? Because you don't heal by changing them. You heal by choosing you. You heal when you decide to no longer be the emotional caretaker of someone else's wounds. You heal when you stop being attracted to people who trigger your trauma. You heal when you stop calling it loyalty to stay in dynamics that kill your spirit. You heal when you stop auditioning for love you already deserve. And you heal the moment you choose peace over potential. That's the final test, isn't it? Letting go of the fantasy of who they could become and accepting who they actually are, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because clarity is closure, and closure doesn't come from their apology. It comes from your decision. Your decision to stop abandoning yourself. Your decision to stop waiting for someone to validate your pain. Your decision to finally walk out of the emotional maze you kept getting lost in. And here's the truth. Healing doesn't mean you'll never meet toxic people again. It means you'll never entertain them again. Because now, you see clearly. Now, you choose differently. Now, you don't chase what confuses you. You protect what grounds you. And that's the quiet revolution. That's when life begins to mirror something new. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You've become the mirror now. A mirror of boundaries, of presence, of peace. And only those who recognize that reflection will feel at home in your life. So let them go. The ones who no longer resonate. The ones who belong to the version of you that you're outgrowing. Release them with grace. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Because the more you release, the more space you make for people who see you, not as someone to fix, but as someone to love, fully, freely, gently. And until they come, you remain whole, not waiting, not proving, just becoming. This is the end of this reflection, but it's not the end of your journey. It's just the beginning of a different story. A story where your pain has meaning, where patterns have context, and your growth has momentum. Now take this silence as a seed. Let it settle in you, let it grow. And if this video has touched you, don't let it end here. Write one truth you're taking with you in the comments below. Not for me, but for you. To speak it into the world. To claim your shift. To remind yourself, I am no longer available for what wounds me. If you found value here, watch the next video in the Soul Chamber. And if you're ready for more reflections like this, subscribe. Not just to a channel, but to your own healing. You're not broken, you're just becoming whole, and wholeness is who you've always been. Welcome back to yourself.